And the world's greatest conspiracy theory with more than 500,000 websites? At number 1, it's mind control.
We know there are official papers on various other experiments back in the Cold War conducted by the CIA when they used drugs and all kinds of stuff on people looking for truth serums, things that would bend people's consciousness. They gave people LSD, they gave people all kinds of strange things. So the notion that the CIA would investigate ways of bending your brain wasn't startling.
As long ago as the 60s, a scientist named Delgado was able to stop a charging bull in its tracks using a radio-controlled implant in its brain.
Anybody can look this up anywhere. I'm not making this up. I found that you don't have to make anything up. Reality is so stunningly bizarre. The American government has experimented on its own people on a number of occasions.
If the mind control conspiracy theory doesn't make you paranoid, nothing will.
If there's nothing in all this, why did I get a series of anonymous telephone calls at around 4 in the morning, one of which said I should leave the country or be killed because I knew too much?
Are they schizophrenic? Are they mentally ill? Are they a little bit too impressionable? Have they seen too many episodes of The X-Files? All of the above. There is a history of, conspiracy, real conspiracy involving the CIA and mind control.
That's how bad it's got. We've lost faith in government agencies to such an extent that we now think they're capable of anything, no matter how horrendous.
Let's face it, we know enough about governments and their secret servants to know that if they could do this, they would do this. If they could find a way of making us all believing what they say, damn right they're going to pursue it.
How do we stop the world of conspiracy from spiraling into madness?
I don't find anything impossible. Once you find things impossible, you're editing possibility. I look at information, and if it's compelling, I go with it. If it's not, I don't.
It might seem laughably unlikely if it weren't for the fact that mind control technology exists and has been used for years.
It's not a theory. It is fact. It went into overdrive after the Korean War when POWs were returned who had been tortured by the Chinese. They seemed apparently normal and functioned normally, but then it became apparent that they had become Chinese agents, that they had been brainwashed and programmed.
In covertly recorded off-air transmissions from the Bush-Clinton presidential election campaign in the 1990s, we can see that Bill Clinton was nothing more than a puppet to the puppet masters which placed him in the White House. Bill Clinton's demeanor seems to be similar to a person who is under a hypnotic trance.
Where From the point of view I had, they certainly were friends, and they didn't recognize any party lines between them. That's something for the, a smoke and mirrors illusion for the public. It's not something they adhere to because they had exactly the same agenda, and that was for bringing in this new world order.
From 1945 and the end of the war through 1989 and the end of the Cold War, we had a worldview. Republican and Democratic presidents alike, from Harry Truman to George Bush, stood for freedom and stood for certain propositions that would make America strong and healthy and grow the middle class and shrink poverty and stand against communism. And after 1989, President Bush said, and it's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
So I wanted to finish the thought here. It's the one break we have to hit live. It's been around the world, but it's hard to believe we're being watched in 151 countries. Crazy. Ted Turner changed the world. big fan of yours. He would serve you exactly. You know what I mean? Only right. He's ready. What you got left in life again? After you're elected, think about it. No dope. That's for sure. Great guy to work for, too.
Remember that every single man, woman, and child in the state of South Carolina awakens to a freer, safer world because of George Bush. Cole, I would remind you and the people of Florence that all of us awaken every single day to a freer, safer world because of George Bush. They themselves awaken every single day to a freer, safer world because of George Bush.
You're lying.
I'm not lying.
He was really on the bus?
I said it might have been on the bus. I don't know.
That's like a new movie and stuff.
Baby, that movie is... I watched it fucking 4 months ago on DVD.
Where have I been? Where have I been? Where have I been?
At this point, Edward Bernays was living in New York. In the 1920s, he had invented the profession of public relations and was now one of the most powerful PR men in America. He worked for most of the major corporations and advised politicians, including President Eisenhower. Like his uncle Sigmund, Bernays was convinced that human beings were driven by irrational forces. The only way to deal with the public was to connect with their unconscious desires and fears. Bernays argued that instead of trying to reduce people's fear of communism, one should actually encourage and manipulate the fear, but in such a way as it became a weapon in the Cold War. Rational argument was fruitless.
What my father understood about groups is that they are manipulable, they're malleable, and that you can tap into their deepest desires or their deepest fears and use that to your own purposes.
As a layperson, perhaps you can enlighten me. What therapeutic effect would the type of experiment that I just described have on a patient?
Well, the therapeutic effect would be indirect.
Was this patient aware that she was being given LSD?
Yes, I mean, they were told that they would be given some medications, and they should have...
Specifically LSD?
Well, we told them, I don't think that they would have even known what LSD was then at the time. They were told that they were going to they would be given some medications which might make them feel worse.
Dr. Monroe, what do you think the Army Chemical Corps was looking for in all of this testing?
They were looking for an incapacitating agent.
Hypnosis, isolation, and deprivation of sleep. Army documents obtained by ABC News refer to this interrogation as conventional. Despite this severe questioning, Army intelligence was getting nowhere with Thornwell, and it was decided to slip him LSD. By far, the most chilling experiments we have uncovered took place at this Gothic estate known as Ravenscrag, halfway up Mount Royal in Montreal. It now houses the Allen Memorial Institute of Psychiatry of McGill University. It was here that the CIA funded a series of experiments, severe experiments, the details of which have never been made public. A joint investigation by John Marks and ABC News finds that this was the closest experimentation to brainwashing that has yet been disclosed. The work was done by the Institute's then director, Dr. Ewan Cameron.
I had several sensations. I was a squirrel in a cage. I was Alice who'd taken the wrong pill and suddenly grown very small, and I couldn't get off the bed, and what was I going to do? How was I going to get the pill that would make me larger again? And at least once, and sometimes 3 times a week, So Dr. Cameron came in the morning and administered the drug, and we were off. And then the drug began to take hold very rapidly because it was an IV injection. And I thought, what in hell is that?
The work of this man, CIA Chief Psychologist John Gittinger, that will provide a significant breakthrough. He devised a personality assessment system that comes close to being able to predict how humans will behave.
What exactly is the personality assessment system you devised?
It's really a descriptive system, an attempt to try to describe personality in a relatively systematic way so that hopefully you can get some kind of an idea to predict what the behavior between different kinds of individuals. Obviously, in intelligence work, like anything else, there is a considerable amount of sizing up. So we experimented with all kinds of ideas about what one should look for to try to see whether or not this could give us clues of the motivations of somebody else, the attitudes of somebody else, the veracity of somebody else.
Gittinger's system had many uses in intelligence work. One was to draw personality portraits of world leaders. Using Gittinger's system, the agency concluded the Shah of Iran is a brilliant but dangerous megalomaniac whose basic problems resulted from an overbearing father. And there were other applications.
Your assessment staff played a key role in helping other governments pick their police intelligence agencies, including, we've learned, the Korean CIA, Uruguayan National Police. Can you tell us about this?
No.
Other experiments were not as conventional. Neurophysicist Dr. Jose Delgado was financed by the Office of Naval Research. In this experiment, the bull is sedated. Electrodes are implanted in its brain. Delgado transmits an electronic impulse to the center of the bull's brain. Delgado has remote control of the animal. Recently released CIA documents refer to the feasibility of remote control of animals, and that special investigations will be conducted toward the application of selected elements of these techniques to man.
First they came for the Muslims, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a Muslim. Then they came for immigrants, detaining them indefinitely, solely upon the certification of the Attorney General, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't an immigrant. Then they came to enter homes and offices for unannounced sneak and peek searches, and I didn't speak up because I had nothing to hide. Then they came to arrest American citizens and hold them indefinitely without any charges and without access to lawyers. And I didn't speak up because I would never be arrested. Then they came for immigrants and students from selected countries, luring them under the requirements of special registration as a ruse to seize them and detain them. And I didn't speak up because I wasn't required to register. Then they came for anyone who objected to government policy because it only aided the terrorists and gave ammunition to America's enemies. And I didn't speak up because I didn't speak up. And then they came for me, and by that time, no one was left to speak up.
So now that you've seen where bananas come from before they reach your table, our journey to Banana Land is ended. We hope you enjoyed the trip. We know you like bananas.